that's the found. That's where it was, and it just lifted off and went right into the neighbor's house here. Oh yeah, this one's destroyed. Just collapsed.
Andrew Romano and I wrote a story for the latest issue of Newsweek about the future of the Jersey Shore in the face of rising seas and warming global temperatures.
Down, there was only about 5 feet of piling underneath those houses right there.
Now it's like 15 feet.
Yeah. Jeez. Isn't it crazy?
My family moved to Long Beach Island about 8 years ago because we had spent a lot of time there growing up. It's not a big year-round community. It's mostly kind of a summertime community, but there is a kind of tight-knit group of people who spend the whole year, including the cold, bleak winters right by the ocean. My parents were aware of the vulnerability. You can't help but be, given that you're living on a thin strip of sand right by the ocean and right by the bay. They're just kind of wedged between these two bodies of water. I think the real question is, what are the people who live in these older homes, these little Cape Cods, these little one-story homes, where if water comes through it, it just destroys the home? What will they do? And I think when people live by the ocean, that's in the back of their mind, but they don't think every day about the worst-case scenario, and that's what we saw with Hurricane Sandy.
There was probably about 4 tons of debris in the driveway and in the garage.
4 tons?
Tons.
The worst destruction that we saw on Long Beach Island was in Holgate. That's really the most vulnerable place, and it always has been. Going back to the 1800s, storms have wrecked it time and time again. There have been inlets cut, their homes wiped out into the bay, and we really saw a pretty intense level of destruction this time. I have good friends who live there, who grew up there, and I went back shortly after the storm to tour.
Don't know where that came from. It's not mine.
You saw houses that had been on mounds of sand now just perched on sort of stilts, the pilings that are the foundation on these islands, and just kind of hovering up there like these spidery, strange kind of spidery, almost surreal things.
Did you expect it to look like this?
Yeah. I knew Holgate was going to get clobbered.
It could come off as bleak or pessimistic, this idea that we have this inevitable, the seas are rising, they're going to swamp the shoreline. But I don't want readers to think of it that way. I think it's more like there are things we can do now to help protect these homes and these communities. And we should be thinking long term about what we can do later, that we should keep the threat in mind when we're making public policy, when we're thinking about how to preserve and protect our shoreline, and not just ignore it, not just push it from our mind, because that's easier. It's easier to think, oh, this is something my kids or my grandkids are going to deal with, but we should be thinking about it now, because these places are important to people. They're where people live. People like my parents live there, and that you know, I just think for the long-term survival of these places, we need to acknowledge that global warming is happening, that seas are rising, and come up with solutions to deal with it.